Hello again, welcome back to Barcelona and for the notebook, the testing notebook for day 3 of the first test. Now you join us in the pit lane because I wanted to see some more cars. I felt we were slightly paddock bound yesterday, not that there's anything wrong with that, but so I've come into the pit lane, but I also wanted to talk about some of the changes we had overnight with the new qualifying regulations and see how it's going to work in practice. So hopefully we can do both. Because Pat Simmons is here. He's just talking to Ed. This chap with the beard is Ed. He's one of the chief designers. I think he is the chief designer. Is that Ed? Ed is the chief designer? He is the chief designer. Is he still the chief designer, Ed?
Yes.
He's got that new beard. I haven't seen that beard before.
Yeah, that's a 2016 development, actually. He was working on it in 2015.
Okay. First of all, this new qualifying format. Firstly, did we need a new qualifying format? I know it wasn't your decision. It's the bosses above, and we'll talk to the bosses later, but...
Okay, well, first, I guess, do we need a new qualifying routine? No, we don't, not for qualifying. And I think that you've got to think what qualifying's about. Is it about an hour's entertainment on Saturday, or is it about trying to make the race better on Sunday? And I think this new procedure is not going to affect Saturday, because there's nothing wrong with Saturday. In fact, arguably, it might even be a bit worse. But it might mix the grid up a little bit for Sunday, and therefore that's not a bad thing. Okay,
but then part of the issue, people's frustrations, we touched on this before with you, is that due to the current level of aero, it's difficult to get close and then race. And while that might not be particularly new problem in Formula One, it is a frustration the fans feel that maybe we should change the aero to allow closer racing, and nothing has been done to address that issue. It seems like the teams don't want to even think about cutting or changing the aero.
Well, firstly, I agree with you. I think your statement's absolutely correct, or the first part of it. I'm not sure I agree that the teams don't want to do anything about it. I think it's just the difficulty of doing anything about it. Now, if you go back, crikey, it's quite a long while ago now, to the Overtaking Working Group, that was the first attempt to do some scientific experiments, but you know, it's really underfunded. It didn't use a great wind tunnel compared to what all the teams are doing as they develop their cars aerodynamically. You know, it was an amateur hour. So unless someone is prepared to really put the effort in, or conversely, the rules force you to work on overtaking, so something like a reverse grid or something where you know, your performance, your overall race performance will not just come from having a very quick car in clean conditions, but you know you have to develop your car in dirty air, then that sort of thing might accelerate it. So
this was your idea about starting people out of sequence or making sure that they have to make their way through the field.
Yeah, precisely, exactly, because then we would develop the cars that way.
Okay, I'm just seeing if we've got anybody coming down the pit lane. Don't think we have any at the moment. You about to do a pit stop practice?
Yes, we are going to do some, yeah.
All right, that'll be good to see. But just quickly about this, the way qualifying will work, won't it just happen, because the life is only in the tyres over one lap, won't it just be the case, we'll just get our idea, well, Simon will follow the Merc as it comes in, that everyone just goes out and does one lap when the tyre's got enough juice in it at the beginning, and then just sits back and goes out again if they have to, much like they do now?
Yeah, pretty well. So if we split the qualifying up, I think what we'll see in Q1 is just that. People go out early on, they'll do a lap, and then they'll hope to be able to sit out the rest of the session. Then, generally speaking, of course, the quick guys can. Now in Q2, I think what you probably do is you'll do 2 fast runs, because you can't just sit out if you're bubbling down the bottom, because you never quite know when you're going to be on the bottom. So it's not like before, where really in Q2 all you wanted to do was be 10th. You didn't care whether you're 10th or 9th or 8th. You cared whether you were 11th. So it's a very different sort of approach that you took. You were just trying to achieve a minimum, if you like. Whereas now you've got to continually be in that top 10. You can't be pushed down. But I do think that what we'll do is we'll just see the action move a little bit forward. You know, we'll be out early, and then there will be an amount of sitting around.
And it doesn't change anything in terms of the new tyre rules, the compounds that you've already selected. Obviously, the goalposts have moved somewhat. You selected your tyre compounds thinking you were going into battle with the old qualifying system. Now you've got a whole new one that you didn't know about, what, 4 weeks before the start of the season?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I think if we'd known what the qualifying procedure was at the time we selected tyres, we would have selected something different. But, you know, it's the same for everyone. I think everyone's in there. There are lots of other things to think about, though. I mean, you know, how is, with just 4 weeks to go, there's an awful lot of software to be written, you know, to do the timing, for us to do the optimization. But think of the FOM guys. They've got to devise a system that really triggers everyone being pulled out at the 1.5 minute intervals. There's an awful lot to do before we have a successful trial of it.
Yeah, what are we going to have, a black flag and then, or just their engineers tell them, all right, that's it, you've got to come in?
Well, I think we're assuming the engineers will tell them, but bear in mind we don't have any regulations yet. What we've got is an idea that's been approved in principle.
Okay, just finally, Pat, I was going to go as long as I could to see if we could do your pit stop, but I fear they're going to go out for a few more laps. Have you seen anything on any others' cars? I know yours is a bit secret squirrel at the moment, you don't like to discuss your own developments, but anything else that's interested you? Mercedes going quite big on their air duct, bigger than we're used to try and get anything that's caught your eye?
Yeah, I think, you know, we're seeing the sort of general trend of the shorter noses, but I'm not sure at this stage, you know, early in the testing, that we've actually seen that much different. But, you know, what is different this year is we've only got 8 days of testing, so I don't know quite when people are going to bring new things. I think there will be parts we see in Australia that we won't have seen in testing, whereas in previous years, last couple of days of testing, we always saw the cars as they would appear in Australia. I think that might not be the case this year.
Okay, but the order looks the same more or less at the moment, doesn't it? Mercedes, a bit closely followed by Ferrari, then you, Red Bull.
Yep, that's about right.
Good.
Let's see if we can change it.
Okay, good, thanks very much. And another team that's going to want to improve, trying to change their position compared to last year, are McLaren Honda. And this here, ladies and gentlemen, is Mr. Hasegawa. Hello, Mr. Hasegawa, how are you? Good afternoon. He's just been doing some interviews, and it's okay. No, I'm not. I'm just talking about. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, okay. Did an interview with Rachel, and we're waiting for Eric Boulier here. He was saying, Mr. Hasegawa was saying, there's huge pressure, big expectation on the Honda, but they are excited about the challenge ahead. The engine system is different this year, but as we know, they've changed the MGU-H, which was really failing them in terms of harvesting enough electrical power and then allowing the drivers to deploy enough during the races and qualifyings actually last year. But they're looking for reliability and performance. He says, we know which technical items we need to work on, which is good to hear. So lots going on McLaren. There's Matt Morris on the left and Kieran on the right, and they're doing the engineering of the car. They've had a little problem with the hydraulics today, but we can already see improvements ahead. Whether that improvements is enough to move McLaren on top of where they are at the moment, we don't know. So if we look at, we're just waiting for Peter Windsor, who's working for FOM at the moment, to finish their bit. You'll notice these big watches that Boulier is wearing. He's actually covering it up with his thumb at the moment. But they signed a big new watch deal with Richard Mille. So you'll see all the top men and women at McLaren now sporting these huge sort of square watches, which are de rigueur now after the association with Tag Heuer ended, really. So where you were used to McLaren wearing all the sort of Tag Heuer stuff, they're now not. Allez.
Hello,
these are these new classy watches, aren't they?
Yeah, very nice actually.
Okay.
Not very heavy, it's fine.
Not very heavy. Okay, what, titanium? Can you see on the GPS traces that your straight line speed is better than last year?
Compare with where and when?
I don't know. Abu
Well,
Dhabi?
we are testing, yeah, but Abu Dhabi in race conditions. You are in testing and first test of the season, so obviously everybody is sandbagging. Not necessarily on purpose actually, because you know, we can have a few kilos of extra sensors on the car. So it's not, to be honest, it's not as easy as this, you know, to answer. And I'm not trying to escape your questions. We should have a better answer about, let's say, the competitive order next week, but this week is a little bit complicated.
Okay, because Honda were also saying they're going to try out some new stuff next week as well, and then the result of the learnings of this week and the second test is what they'll bring for Australia.
Yes, there will be some grades already next week from Honda toward, let's say, what should be the definitive 2016 Power Unit homologation.
Okay, and just I know you've got to go into, there are a load of journalists. The reason why we bisected Eric as he's on his way to journalists is because we're kind of slightly cheekily talking to you in the middle of destinations. But there have been these, you and your fellow team bosses have changed the rules, it seems. Ron, I know, was in the meeting. You were there, you've been consulted as well. Was qualifying broken? Did we need to fix it?
I don't think there is a specific need to fix it. I think to improve it, maybe.
You think this new thing's going to improve it?
I don't know, to be honest.
Then why did you all vote it through and it's going?
Because you just try to do things better, and sometimes you have to take decision. If not, after we are blamed to never decide anything. So this time we tried to do something which was not changing the DNA of qualifying, which could potentially bring some unpredictability. This is what I guess. There was a wish for that reason. As a pure racer, I would like a standard format, to be honest, and the best is the best, the worst is the worst. But we are also to consider this is a business or a show or whatever you call it, and fans need to be happy and excited to watch it. So this is what we have been told to think about.
It is a business, it is a show, but there is a feeling perhaps amongst the fans that there are a lot of gimmicks with these new insanely complicated tyre rules and this new quite complicated qualifying system. Do you as a team boss, do you and Ron believe that you know what the true racing enthusiasts and the fans want, and are you going to try and do what they want?
I guess the true racing enthusiasts, I guess so. We can guess, or we can understand what they want because we are also a racer. But if you have to please millions and hundreds of millions of people watching Formula One, it's very complicated.
Right, but what do you think they want?
I think they want to see a real fight on track between the drivers.
Exactly.
We know that. So, but we are trying our best to make sure the regulation is working. And to be honest, to be fair with you, I mean, back in 2012 or 2013, we had 9 different winners in the first 10 races, but still, fans were complaining about other things. So we can't please everybody. So we try the best. We have to move Formula One into a new era, which is a greener era, which is hybrid technology. Yeah. Obviously, we are suffering first, of this move, but we believe we will be there, we'll get there one day. Once we will all converge with something which is more or less a good level playing field between other teams, we will have another good show on track. And part of the change as well we are trying to push is obviously this fuel saving, this tire saving, we try to stop it as well in the future to make sure the drivers enjoy the racing, and if they enjoy the racing, you have a better show on track.
Okay, and simplify the aero, change the aero, would that help closer racing?
Yeah, I think so as well. Drivers clearly, I mean, with cars, if you compare the last 7 years, we are something like 6 seconds slower. And I think it's part of the excitement as well from the fan to see the best cars on track having the highest speed or cornering speed or whatever, and which we lost a little bit, so we're trying to rebalance a little bit.
Okay, listen, you've got to go. Thank you very much. I will open the helpfully signed thing where it says, please pull here. Oh, he's gone already. Right. Join us after the break. Well, we'll sum up how everyone's third day here at the first test has gone. Beautiful, isn't it? Welcome back to Barcelona, where we're rounding up the third day of the first test here. And, well, tyres are being checked. And we'll get on to a change in the construction of the tyres a little later. But there is a change, which is best to think of it as a Twix. Other chocolatey bars with several layers are available, but there's a new change in construction. All right, I might as well tell you about it now. There's a top layer of the good bit, which would be the chocolate on the Twix, and then there's a little layer underneath. This is all a change in construction with these Pirellis for this year. There's a little layer underneath, which is like the caramel, which is the sort of usable rubber sticky bit. Then there's a layer underneath that, which is like the biscuit. And once you hit the biscuit, then they start to lose, it's like a brick wall of sort of tyre performance, the way the engineers describe it this year on these Pirellis. And you start to hit a sort of cliff type scenario if you're used to Pirellis of old. So that is going to be a key feature of the old tyre wear throughout the season. But that's why a lot of the teams have been doing tyre work today to start to understand this new construction? I'll tell you about it when we're a bit further down, where I tell you about Haas. Haas or Haas. There is someone sent me a link to a YouTube video. Is it Haas or Haas?
Haas.
Haas. You're absolutely sure?
Absolutely sure. Haas.
There is a YouTube video of Gene saying Haas.
Okay.
But it's Haas.
Haas.
Okay, thank you so much. It's very confusing. But Romain Grosjean today was P2, which is good, isn't it? A 25.8, which is a decent time on the soft tyre. 82 laps for him. So I think they're a happy team here because they've got some performance. Here is Guti coming towards us, and we've done a little interview with Esteban, which will appear on the Sky Sports website, where he says he's learned a lot from his time at Ferrari. This is embarrassing, isn't it? It's always strange when I talk about someone when they're standing right there. He's learned a lot from Ferrari, but he's bringing... Is this your room, Esteban? Oh, nice. Beautiful. Nice area for a little rub down and a nap. These are long days you're all doing. 160 laps, 170 laps. I mean, not you, but the other guys are doing. You must all be knackered after that. It is crazy. It is crazy, isn't it? Sorry? This is what you do. Yeah, I know. This is what you train for with your strong neck. But it's amazing, isn't it? So Gutierrez here, yeah, he learned a lot from Ferrari. He does still feel sharp. But there's a lot to come still from here. And that interview with Gutierrez, slightly better than the one I just did there, will be available on the Sky Sports F1 website soon. Right, McLaren. Not a brilliant day, again, I'm afraid to say. JB, only 51 laps with a significant hydraulic leak, which meant they couldn't fix it. P10. And no wonder when we saw them earlier, Kyron Pilbeam and Matt Morris were looking a bit unhappy with the state of affairs, because they kind of knew that it was quite a significant hydraulic leak and they wouldn't be able to fix it towards the end of the day. So that's what we saw them earlier coming out of the garage. They didn't do any running after that, I'm afraid. So we have a little bit of unreliability sneaking back into the McLaren machine. And you heard what Eric Boulier had to say about the straight line speed as well, that we don't know yet. Let's remain positive, shall we, and optimistic that they will find some stuff to come. For Manor today, it was all about betting in our mate Rio Haryanto. And as we see Piers here, which is who is Rio's manager, just on the left-hand side, talking to Alan Baldwin from Reuters. It was all about getting Rio comfortable in the car. He did his first day in Formula One car, 76 laps. He was slowest of all on a 1:28.2. He had a spin. He had the first spin, somewhat amazingly. We've had stoppages out on track, but we haven't had anyone spin until today into the gravel. But Rio managed it, all part of the learning process. He had a spin into the gravel at turn 5. He wasn't as quick as Pascal Wehrlein, some 3 or 4 seconds slower than Wehrlein's best time, but Wehrlein is, of course, much more experienced in Formula One, has tested for many other Formula Ones. This was Rio's first day, after all, in a Formula One car. I think that he did a test. He did do a test. He did a test for Marussia, didn't he? A few years ago. Anyway, but first in these kind of proper cars, and he got steadily quicker throughout the day. And I'm sure we'll have learnt an awful amount. Right, let's move on to Renault. Now, look, is that the chocolate or the caramel coming off there? I'd say that's probably the caramel. He's getting down to the biscuit. And P4 for K-Mag on a 26.0, 109 laps. The car did have a wee breakdown, but it was the first time they managed over 100 laps for this Renault team. So a more positive day, and the first time they've gone over 100 laps in one day. So a better team, better day for all of them round here. Sauber, Felipe Nasr, P7, 115 laps. And for Sauber with the it's Gunther Steiner here, the team principal of Haas. Haas, it's Haas, isn't it? Not Haas. Haas. No, don't tell me where you're going. I know exactly where you're going. I don't want to know what you're going to do with your Haas in there. Yeah, for Sauber it was welcome back to Felipe Nasr. It was driver practice really as much as anything else. That's what they're doing. Marcus Ericsson was saying how valuable it is just to have these days in the car where you can go and practice as a driver, practice your art, go and do race distances, just try out different things. and see where you get. And so NASA, I think, is finding the same thing as driver practice, aero and setup work in the morning, and then long runs in the afternoon. Careful of that step, Si. But it was P7 Felipe Nasr, 115 laps, which leads us on to Ferrari. Let's just see how I'm doing for time. Yeah, okay, not bad. Kimi Räikkönen. Not a straightforward day at all for him. Let's just see if we can see the sort of scene at the back of the garage, whether we can tell anything in their body language in that smoking hut on the right-hand side. No, we can't really. But it was frustrating for Kimi because yet again, he's got the unreliability on the Ferrari. All right, Vettel had a bit of unreliability over the last couple of days, but they lost most of the morning with a fuel system problem. It must have been quite a big one. Kimi himself said it wasn't ideal, and it took quite a long time to fix, but he said the fuel system is tricky. It was a tricky problem. Kimi said it wasn't the ideal start. It took a bit long to fix. I haven't done any setup work. Sorry, I'll walk backwards. We just did longer runs, but I need more time to understand the car. But now's the good stuff. The feeling is nice. The car is already very good, much better than last year. The handling is better than last year, and the front end is better than last year. Hooray, Kimi fans. So we know that he famously likes Gutierrez again in the notebook. How does he manage to be in 3 places at the same time? We know that he likes a solid front end, and as we predicted the other day, that's what he's got on this car. So that is very, very good news. He said that there is a different steering wheel, which does look a bit different, takes a bit of time to catch up with. That's Mark Arnold, Kimi's longtime trainer there. And he said it's a bit of a learning process with the steering wheel, but he's getting back on terms with everything with his engineers, because it was a new engineering team last year with Dave Greenwood, and there were mistakes on both sides. I'm sure you remember Kimi getting dumped out of qualifying and misunderstandings and breakdowns and stuff like that. Kimi saying it's getting much better now that they're all sort of comfortable with each other after another year. There's more front end to the car, and I am happy, says Kimi Räikkönen. Force India, P1. So maybe this is a really quick car. No, it's only testing. What am I talking about? No, it is. It is a fast car. I shouldn't get... Well, this is strange. I don't want to get in the back of either of these 2 shots. I'll tell you what, if we're quick, you come between here. Yeah, okay, then I think we got away with that. And it was on a super soft tyre, and it was on a 3-lap run that Hulk was set his fastest time. And it was just the one flying lap. All right, so it was a quali run. All right, maybe they're not the fastest. Maybe they're not the 3rd fastest. Anyway, Force India are having a good test. It was the 2nd fastest lap of the test, quicker than Red Bull on the ultra soft tyre, interestingly, given that we know there's that 0.8 difference between the ultra soft and the super soft. So we have to ask ourselves, did Red Bull have a lot of fuel in the car when they did their ultra soft tyre? If not, then are Force India still solidly above Red Bull? Interesting, because they weren't towards the end of Abu Dhabi, were they? My colleague from Sky Germany is just doing her little piece to camera. Hello, Sandra. Everything okay? Do you think the Force India is the 3rd fastest car in Formula One?
I hope so, because we have a German driver in that car.
And he's changed his helmet. It's all like this green helmet now. It's like the Hulk. He's going the whole Incredible Hulk thing.
Yeah, maybe he shows us the Hulk this year on track, you know?
Yeah, I know. Still without a podium in Formula One, amazingly.
That's his biggest goal he wants to achieve this year.
This year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dankeschön. It's amazing still to think, and he has said that actually, Hulkenberg, hasn't he? That just as long as he tries to get a podium this year, well, with that car, he might achieve it. Anything else? Yeah, they did aero work in the morning, then they did long runs in the afternoon. I still haven't found out what a flirt kit is, but I will find out before Development Corner tomorrow. Williams, that was Ed Wood. Sorry, I didn't give you his surname yesterday. Earlier on, the chief designer, Ed Wood, with his new beard. And Felipe Massa did 109 laps. Good day for them, P10. They did the tyre comparisons, again with the Twix tyres, just learning how this new construction of tyres wears down. I'll actually tell you what Paddy Lowe from Mercedes, the way that he described it, if I can find it in my notebook. He said, there is a change in the way Pirelli make the tyres. There's a base compound construction, which is quite thin. Then there's a way they have the compound construction. There is a top compound that wears out quite quickly. That's the chocolate. Then there is a layer through that, which is the caramel. And then there's a brick wall in terms of degradation, as far as Paddy said, which I took to be the biscuit layer. So it's those little 2 or 3 layers in that tyre that they were talking about at Mercedes. And as far as their day, it seems that the car, this Mercedes, is stronger than the drivers. Machine has beaten man today at Mercedes because they found with Rosberg's record-breaking 172 laps yesterday, it was too much. It's too much for, as Gutierrez said, it's too much. Well, he didn't say that, but it's a lot. And so they've split it up. The car won't break down, but the drivers are, so to speak. So Rosberg did half the day, and then he handed the car over to Lewis, who did another half a day. The car itself was fine, did 160 laps. Rosberg did 74 laps in the morning, was P5, and Hamilton did 86 laps in the afternoon, was P8. So there you go. They're still doing it with one engine. That's the Mercedes plan, just to use the one single engine on the one car. If you've been asking, do they have two cars? No, they just have one car that the drivers change, get set up for changes, the drivers, the pedals and the seat, etc., overnight or from morning to afternoon, depending on which driver is driving it. And a few of you are also asking, why do they wash the tyres? Because after all, the tyres are just going to go back to Pirelli and get shredded. It's not the tyres they're washing, ladies and gentlemen. It's the rims, because they need to reuse the rims again. There you go. You can see this lady washing the rims. The tyres do get a little bit of a wash, now and again as well, but it's actually the rims that they are washing. Carry on. Sorry to interrupt you. We didn't interrupt them. That's Mercedes. Yeah, don't think it's saying. Oh yeah, they say it's 4 decibels louder. The noise. They've put a figure on that 12% we were talking about earlier. They say it's plus 4 decibels. Toro Rosso, good day for Carlos Sainz, 161 laps. Wow, must be pretty knackered. And that's P6 for Carlos Sainz. I said compliments. I ran into Franz Tost coming out of the gents. I said compliments on your car, Franz. It's very nice. And in his typical way, not wanting to accept a compliment, he said, "Oh, tell me in Melbourne." As a kind of, we don't know where we are yet. Let's get to Melbourne first. And finally, Red Bull, not a brilliant day for them. They were P9, 74 laps with Danny Kvyat. He ended his day early with a little bit of a problem. So not quite as smooth running as they've had recently. But it turns out I might be onto something with this super hydrophobic, slippery through the air, low drag, low surface friction paint job on the car. I thought about this because there's nothing that Red Bull do, which is just anything that's on that car is there for a reason to make the car go faster. You could say that amongst all the cars, but there's something about, I asked around, a couple of other engineers were saying, all the cars are painted with super slippery, either polish or paint, and gone are the days where you put stickers on them because that does disrupt the airflow. But there's something about this matte coating which actually makes the car quicker through the air. Intriguing, isn't it? So it might not be quite the science fiction that we thought it was. Whether it's nanoparticles in the coating or not, we will find out through the season. But that is it. All we've got time for. Thanks very much for watching. See you for Development Corner tomorrow. Bye-bye.